Good afternoon, YouTube family. T.O. here, Simplistic Fishing. Today, we're into part two, Richland Chambers Reservoir down in Navarro County, Texas. Great lake to fish. Got lots of large fish down there. And believe we got some really good patterns to share with you guys and some good points. So stick around. Got some good information for you. And as always, all these links are in the video's description. Let's get started.
So let's go ahead and jump into this thing. Last time when we had the last video on Chambers Part 1, we actually covered the bridge here and then kind of southeast and then over here southeast as well. So on this video, we're actually going to cover the west side as well as the north side. So let's go ahead and just start here on the kind of the southwest side here. We covered these weed lines last time, but let's go ahead and just talk about them real quick. We do move our date back to November of 2014. So I'm going to move that back there. Here we see those weed lines. We did talk about that's where that weird B was. So let's go ahead and move over. Now I want you to be super, super careful on these next two areas that we're going to talk about because there are trees galore everywhere and they're just in little patches. So for example, if you were coming down here, Main Lake area, you're safe coming in through here, but you're not safe coming in through here. There are a lot of trees in here. If I zoom in, you'll see them all. They're all over the place. So you've got to be very, very careful when you're fishing these areas of the lake. So didn't see too much down in here, but it did see a nice little hump over here. So it'd be good to check out. Of course, again, lots of trees and stuff, so be careful getting back in here. Also got a really significant weed line over here with those stick ups that we talked about. We've got a good pond dam that's over here. And then some shallow rock along this bank line. So if you're on that rock pattern, this rock looks like it goes out maybe just a little bit more, so it might have a little bit of depth to it, but really good bank line with lots of rock going all the way down it. So you could definitely spend some time in that area. And then you've got some, other cover nearby too. This is maybe like some old dock pilings or something like that. So probably a pretty good bank line to check out. So then moving on down here, we've got some more kind of a ditch that comes through here, but some really significant weed lines here where those stick ups are. So I went ahead and marked that. And if you missed the first video, I've marked weed lines, stick ups, pond dams, boat ramps, and rocks pretty much. On these weed lines, really what they are, they're the stick ups that you find in Richland Chambers. It's a really good pattern to run. You can find them in these stick ups a lot. So what I did was if they were just a random pile of stick ups, I kind of just, threw a marker out there and said stick ups. But if they made a really defined line, like what you see here, I went ahead and just created a weed line for you so you could fish them. And the idea there is obviously you want to flip into these things and punch into them, whatever you want to call it, but you want to fish into them, but also work that weed line, get parallel with that weed line and work just the outer edge of it. And you'll be surprised at what you can catch there. So we've also got some more pond dam here with some good stick ups behind it. So real good area to take a look at. You've got rocks on this point as well. You kind of get them scattered here. You got a little bit of a rock pile here. You could mark additionally if you wanted to. This one was a little more significant, so I went ahead and marked it, kind of some scattered rock off that point. And then let's keep on moving down here. We get in here, there's a pretty good creek channel, so I went ahead and marked it. I've never actually fished back in here. Obviously there's trees, so be careful. You can see more stumps right here just looking at it. But pretty good creek channel that comes back in here, so it might be worth taking a look at. And you got some cover you can flip and stuff like that as you're going back in there. Again, back in here, you kind of see the same thing. We've got these nice weed lines that are pretty well defined back in this cove. And then if we move up here, we have the same thing. So these dock lines, they're here, but they're sparse. But if we get in here, we can see it really thickens up. So these all look really, really good. And you got some really significant, real defined lines that are on these. So really like those. Again, got another patch here. Looks like a perfect square. So I marked that for you guys. And then moving over here, I like this because you got a nice rock pile that's out here, a little off of the shoreline. Probably be pretty easy to identify it if you're out on the lake. Just look where this wall breaks, and that's right where that rock pile should be. And if we're looking at it from, say, 2017, this rock pile is a little bit offshore, so you might have some pretty good depth there. Nothing crazy, but at least some decent depth to find some decent sized fish. You've also got some more weed lines in here that I marked. And then down here, I just marked, you got some shallow rock along this bank line, and we're talking like super shallow. So that's going to be like the little bitty 1.5 square bills, things like that. You got a boat ramp back in here, and then a small rock pile that's kind of off the edge of this. And if we look at this when we're, 2017, You can kind of see these, and we've caught fish in this area too off of both of these. So this is a good little spot to take a look at when you're out here on Chambers. All right, and then we're going to keep on moving now. You're going to notice the spots are going to get a little bit less and less, and that's basically because it's very hard to access some of these areas, especially when we get way far back in here. So we've got some stick-ups that are over in here. We've got some more shallow rocks that are off of this point. Some more stick-ups there. I just didn't really mark them. They didn't look that thick, but that, you know, always be worth going back there and checking out, especially if you're just fishing this side of the lake. You got a good boat ramp over here as well. Got a little bit of a creek channel, I guess you could say, and then you got a pond dam back here too that I did not see the first time, so probably want to mark that one if you're adding additional points. You've also got a pretty decent weed line here that you could fish as well. So then moving on over to the next area, you've got some rock along this bank line. You've also got additional rock along this bank line too. Let me go ahead and zoom in here for you. Got some rock that's kind of hidden back here along this bank line. Real shallow rock, but still could be worth fishing, especially with those docks being around there. And then you got some rock along this bank line too. It's kind of hidden behind these trees, but you can see it once it zooms in here. Just some scattered rock, and you can kind of see it here along the bank line too. But always good little areas, and this rock here looks like it might have a little bit of depth. It's hard to tell with the shadow of the trees, but you can see that rock comes out a little bit more than than some of those other little shallow areas. You got a good brush pile here. So you crappie fishermen, good spot to yank some crappie out of. Also a good spot to find some bass, of course. Then we got some shallow rocks here all along this weird looking point. Then I'm going to zoom out because basically from that point forward, I didn't mark too many things because this is going to get pretty hairy back in here, but I got a surprise for you guys here in just a second. So we've also got some shallow rocks over here, like an old boat ramp or an old road bed that's in here. Then you've also got some shallow rocks that are over here by this boat dock as well. So you can see they're pretty well defined. So what I wanted to show you was, as you can see when I zoom in here, there are trees pretty much everywhere you go. And so what I've done is I've created paths to get through these trees. Now, I want to put a disclaimer out that says do not fly through and use these paths and think that you're not going to hit a tree, because I literally just created the paths based on Google Earth. And if I didn't see a tree there, then I assumed there wasn't a tree there. But without actually running these lanes, which I haven't had a chance to yet, I cannot guarantee you that these are going to be perfect. But I will say that I think they'll be helpful, especially if you're just idling through here going slow. So what I've done is I've created these tracks, and I pretty much did it for the west side of the lake and for the north side of the lake. So if you're following these tracks, you should at least be able to avoid some of the trees. You can see here where I've just kind of gone through and avoided different tree stumps as I went through and looked at the lake when it was down low to try to find me a path to get back here. And the reason I really wanted this path is because I heard about a place on Richland Chambers called Patterson Lake. I heard it was really, really good, but I also heard it was super difficult to get to, and it takes forever to get back there. So I never really had a chance to go back there last time we were fishing, but now that going through Google Earth and everything, I'm able to make myself a little bit of a path here and hopefully go back there and fish it sometime. So you can see I've made this path. A couple things just to point out: you got some concrete pillars over here you could fish, but overall you just got this huge flat, and you've got all kinds of creek channels in here. We could have marked all of them. I didn't really want to because my main focus was getting back here to Patterson. So marked me a path all the way back to Patterson, and then you can see here this is where Patterson Lake is. So really good area to fish. I understand there's some really big fish that get caught back in this area as well, so it'd definitely be worth taking the trip back there someday to see if that's some good fishing. And then while you're back there, when you're out there, you've got all these creek channels and stuff you could check out. You've also got some pond dams that are in here, possible shell beds on the edges of those pond dams too that kind of look alike. And then if we get back in here, I kind of made us a path to go back in here as well. There are some spots on Navionics that says this is a good crappie area with all these stick-ups. There is a pretty significant weed line that's here. So I would suggest probably just going back here and checking it out, seeing if it might be worth fishing. You've got some culverts back here, lots of different stuff going on. Looks like some hydrilla maybe going on, some stick-ups, all kinds of good stuff. So just be careful. There are stumps all over the place. I kind of marked the creek channel here as well, but if you're back in there and you're not worried about hitting stumps, might be a good area to go check out. So that really covers us for the southwest side of the lake. Let's go ahead and move on up And let's talk about the north side of the lake. So I'm going to start on the bridge here. We'll start on this west side and move our way up. So here, right around this marina, this is Richland Chambers Marina. I can't remember the exact name of the marina. Let's see if it says here. It doesn't really say. But anyways, it's right here by their main marina. This is a kind of a public hotspot. These rocks produce fish. They'll produce fish constantly. And then even these trees right out here off this point, I've seen people pull a lot of fish out of there too, just in the few days that we were there fishing. So definitely want to check out these rocks. Especially if you're bank fishing, you can actually walk out here onto the edge of this and fish around these rocks, and I guarantee you're going to catch some fish. So good area to go check out. Now, again, when we're up in here, we've got to be extremely careful because we've got trees all over the place. And yes, I did put paths out there for you, but again, do not run these paths at full throttle. You're going to hit a tree, you're going to do damage to your boat, and I don't want to be responsible for that. So these paths are just there as kind of guides as what I think is a safe path, but there is no such thing as a safe path unless I actually go out there and verify it for you guys. All right, so got some more stick-ups in here. Again, lots of trees, so be careful. Put a little path in here. We've got some more stick-ups that are around in here, and then we've got an old boat ramp that's down in here as well. I've never actually fished too much on this side of the lake. I kind of stayed away from it because at the time I didn't have all these paths and things to go through, and there were just way too many trees. We've also got some pretty significant weed lines coming up this side. Got additional stick-ups and weed lines really just going all the way along this whole shoreline, so you could essentially just go up there and just flip all this stuff and see what kind of pattern you can get on. Then if we got to go up here, there didn't see too much up in here. There were, I called them money docks just because if you look at these docks, you can see that this creek channel is very significant back here in this pocket. And the bend comes right along these two docks. So I would say that those two docks would probably be pretty good spots to be fishing. So I called them money docks. Never actually fished them, but I'm calling it right now. Those are money docks. So long as the water's up high enough, I guess I should make that statement. There is another pond dam that's out here, but again, look at this. There are trees everywhere. You're going to have to be super careful if you plan on coming back up in this area. All right, so then from there, there's really no good way to get out. So I'm going to go ahead and just start us back over here, back on this path line, and let's talk about this side. We do have some very significant weed lines that are right here. I think we've fished these before and caught a fish out of there, so probably a good place to look. Got some additional stick-ups back here by this dock, a real good patch of stick-ups that are right in here, so take a look at those. You've got another boat ramp that's over here. So again, with those boat ramps, you got that hard surface, always a good area to look, and you got some kind of like a little bit of a drop here right beside this boat ramp, so it could be a good one to take a look at. And then if we go over here in this cove, we've got some more significant weed lines. Got an old pond dam here. Always good spots. Got weed lines here too. Additional stick-ups right here off of this little point, and then some tucked back in the corner. So those are always good places to look, and also fishing right off the top of that point. More stick-ups here. And then here we've got a real significant weed line and like a little bit of a pinch point or a ditch that comes in here. So we've got rock here, we got the ditch here, and then we've got these real significant weed lines here. So this looks like a pretty good area to be fishing, especially right around all those stick-ups and really close to that ditch right in there where that pinch point is. Then moving up here, we've got more rock. Excuse me, my allergies are bothering me today. We've got more rock here. We've got boat ramp here and scattered rock kind of through here on this bank line, which is interesting. You don't see this too much on this lake, but you do have some pretty good scattered rock through here. So this could be, good area to kind of drag some stuff around, Texas rig, Carolina rig, something like that. Just see if you can pick something up off those rocks. Got some additional weed lines back in here that were pretty significant. So I went ahead and marked all of those for you and got a good break right here between them too. So that's always good. And that thing goes pretty far back there. Then when we come up here by this plant, we've got some shallow rocks right here on the corner. You can see right in here. And we've caught some fish, around this stuff. I actually saw a bunch of carp and stuff right in here last time we were here. I think it was, I don't know what it was, a bunch of big fish just roaming around in this area, but they weren't bass. We also have shallow rocks up in here in this boat ramp, so this is a good area to fish too. We also caught a few fish off that dock, I believe, when we were there. Got some weed lines back in here, the stick-ups again. And then as we move on up, we're going to find some more stuff up in here. We've got some shallow rock here, some additional shallow rock here, And then this is an interesting place. It's actually a pretty good place to be fishing, but you got a little bit of a boat ramp here and some rocks. And I caught a catfish right around in here. I'll have to put a picture on there for you guys so you can see it. But it was a large one for sure. And I caught it on my little spinning rod. I was on like 10-pound test with the shaky head, and somehow I caught like a 30, 35-pound catfish. But me, I don't like catfish, so you'll see in the picture, Landon's going to hold it up. All right, so we're going to move on up. We got stick ups here. And then we're starting to get into some pretty heavily treed areas, so it's going to start getting limited once we get up here. But we got some more stick ups going in through here. And then if we get out in here, we've got some additional weed lines that are back in this cove. So you can see a couple there and a couple there. So always good to work those stick ups and those weed lines. And then moving on up, when we get past that bridge, you got some additional weed lines that are right here by the bridge with some deeper water access. You got stick ups coming off of this huge flat point that comes out here, as well as a roadbed. And then you got additional stick ups that are right in here that are pretty well defined. Then if we get over here, kind of the same thing. We got a real good weed line going into this little pocket or this little cove, and then some stick ups that are kind of just on their own, but a real good pile of them just right there, making a real good curve. And then through here, this looks interesting. You got a weed line that comes through here. I didn't mark it. Like I was just getting tired of marking weed lines, but basically you got stick ups here, but you got a nice creek channel that comes back through here too. So I really like this. But what I wanted to caution you guys on is it looks like we got some trees here. This could be poles too, like actual like fence posts too in between those trees. So just be really careful here and just make sure you don't run into those trees. If you're fishing in that area, just be extremely careful. All right, then you got another little point that comes off here that looks like it could have some possible shell beds on the end of it. So take a look at that point, just the edge of it. Could be a good spot to catch some largemouth bass. And then we got some more weed lines here that I've marked for you guys. And if Google Earth can catch up with me, we'll see these other ones right here as soon as it zooms in. So we've got some really significant weed lines here. Look how straight and defined these are. I love all that stuff. I love flipping that stuff. You can catch some really big fish doing that too. Here's some more weed lines. And then back here, we've got some additional stick ups, and you got some brush that comes off this point that sticks out, and just a nice little pile right there on the top of it. So always good areas to check out, kind of isolated, not a lot around there. And then you got that brush sticking out. And then this is a pond dam. You can barely start to see it taking shape because the water is obviously drawn way down in this image, but this looks like it could be a pretty decent pond dam to fish. So definitely take a look at that one. And then we've got the additional weed lines back here. And then really from that point forward, it gets really heavily treed. There are trees galore here. Even these paths are just kind of weaving their way through the trees. There's a couple more things up here. You've got some rock and a pond dam in here. It would have to be a really golden spot for me to want to go over there, but worth checking out. And if it is a golden spot, there's not going to be a lot of people up there fishing it because it's so dang hard to get to. And you got another one up here too, a real good pond with a nice pond dam, and then another one over here. So if you're on a pond dam pattern, these three ponds are hidden back in here that no one else is probably going to be able to get to unless they've watched the Simplistic fishing video and have a little path to get back there. But other than that, those could be great spots. So really, guys, that finishes up the video for part 2 of Richland Chambers Reservoir. Remember, I put the links to all these points in the video description, so feel free to use those. Leave me a comment if you can. Feel free to share this thing and like if you did enjoy it. And if you didn't like it, I guess still hit that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, guys, tight lines. Until next time, hope you catch your PB. Take care.